Did you know about a $2 million bag that was once considered the most expensive in the world? It's the Hermès Sac Bijou Birkin Original Diamond Edition. To better understand the $2 million price tag, let's consider the real American earns around $62,000 a year before taxes. With that income, to buy this bag, you would need to save every penny for over 30 years. No rent, no food, no room for error. That's over 11,000 working days just to buy something that can't even fit a phone in. And even if you had the money, it still wasn't enough. Because this isn't a product you can order. There are only 3 of the original diamond-encrusted Hermès Sac Bijou Birkin bags in the world. No waiting list, no retail stores, and there's no guarantee even for billionaires. In terms of price, this bag surpasses most other luxury handbags ever produced. A Birkin Himalaya I analyzed in a previous video is the world's most famous leather handbag, costing around $400,000 to $5,000. That means it costs 4 to 5 times more than what most people consider the perfect Birkin. At $2 million, you're also talking the price of a Bugatti Chiron Supersport, or a custom-made Patek Philippe Grand Complication watch, or even the deposit for a Manhattan penthouse. But here's the difference. Those things are expensive because they're functional, while this bag can't even fit a phone. But Hermes didn't create it to compete with cars, watches, or even other bags. They created it to exist outside of comparison, practicality, and the market itself. That's why not everyone with money can buy it. That's why it's also quite controversial. Some see it as meaningless excess. Others see it as the purest form of luxury, absolute scarcity, absolute control, and ownership that needs no justification. So the real question isn't why it costs $2 million. The real question is, who is this made for? The Hermès Sac Bijou Birkin is not a handbag in the conventional sense. It does not belong in a wardrobe, it does not sit on a shelf. And it certainly does not exist for the practicality of solving everyday problems. What you are seeing is a piece of high-end jewelry shaped like a Birkin bag. A miniature version, crafted in rose gold and encrusted with over 2,700 diamonds, designed to function exactly like the original, only in such a small size that it can be worn on the wrist as a piece of jewelry. This is not a limited edition in the way the luxury industry typically uses that term. It is not 1 in 100. It is not 1 in 10. Only 3 diamond versions of the Sac Bijou Birkin exist worldwide. They have never been displayed in store windows, never been listed online. And they were never created for most people to discover. It does not behave like a product, but rather like a myth. Something you hear about, read about, but almost never see in real life. And that is what makes it so enigmatic and fascinating. Because when an item costs as much as a house, a supercar, or the entire lifetime of most people, why does it exist, and why is it so expensive? When people see the price of the Hermès Sac Bijou Birkin, the first reaction almost always skepticism. $2 million sounds absurd, but once you analyze the price, you begin to see that Hermes is not just pricing a bag, they are pricing 4 different factors that almost never coexist at this level. Let's start with the most obvious one, the material. The Sac Bijou Birkin is not plated, coated, or decorated on a pre-existing structure. The entire bag is made from solid gold, rose gold, or white gold, depending on the version. That alone elevates it beyond the world of ordinary handbags and places it firmly within the world of high-end jewelry. On top of that, there are more than 2,700 individual gemstones set across the surface of the bag, totaling nearly 90 carats. Unlike other luxury bags that might feature diamonds in a single accent or clasp, the Hermès Sac Bijou Birkin has diamonds distributed throughout the entire object. The body, the handles, the clasps, the locks, and even the smallest mechanical details. Every surface that could be set with diamonds was adorned. At this stage, the cost of raw materials alone was already comparable to that of high-end jewelry. But materials by themselves were not enough to justify a $2 million price tag. Many jewelry pieces contain diamonds, gold, and rare stones, yet very few ever reach this level. And that is where the next factor comes into play. The Sac Bijou Birkin bag isn't just decorated to look like a Birkin. It functions like a real Birkin. It has a flap that opens, a rotating clasp, a well-functioning lock, and smoothly moving hinges. And all of that happens on a miniature scale, measured in millimeters. Crafting mechanical jewelry at this size is infinitely more difficult than crafting full-sized objects. There is absolutely no room for error. A small misalignment means the entire piece is ruined. Each diamond must be hand-set. Each joint must move freely without loosening the stones. Each part must balance durability, flexibility, and precision. This isn't ordinary jewelry either. It's a combination of high-end jewelry, micro-engineering, and sculpting. And it takes years, not months, to complete a single piece. Some estimates suggest that the entire process, design, testing, refinement, and implementation can take up to 5 years. At this level, you're not just paying for hours of labor anymore. You're paying for the failures, the experimentation, and the mastery that only a select few artisans in the world can achieve. Most importantly, we must mention the meaning behind the bag, which makes it incredibly expensive. The Birkin is not simply a bag. It is one of the most recognizable luxury symbols ever created. For decades, it has represented accessibility, patience, and social status. The Sac Bijou Birkin has detached that symbol from everyday life, because it cannot be used casually, cannot be carried through airports, cannot be left under a restaurant table. By eliminating practicality, Hermes has elevated the Birkin to something akin to an artifact, an icon. The Sac Bijou Birkin is a statement that says, I no longer need practicality to justify owning it, and that icon adds value far beyond the materials or labor involved. Finally, we come to the most powerful element, scarcity. The original diamond-encrusted Sac Bijou Birkin bag was produced in a limited run of only 3 worldwide. Not limited to under 10, but precisely 3. Production has been permanently discontinued. No future versions will be released. You cannot negotiate to acquire it, no matter how much money you have. That level of scarcity elevates the item to something closer to art than a consumer product. Ownership becomes a matter of historical significance, not a transaction. At that point, value is no longer determined by the market. It is determined by the brand's permission. When you combine pure gold, thousands of diamonds, years of exquisite craftsmanship, cultural symbolism, and absolute scarcity, all to create one bag, then the $2 million price tag begins to make sense, not emotionally, but structurally. This is not a luxury for everyone. It is not even a luxury for most wealthy people. Ownership is not about buying something, but about being allowed to possess it. While the reasons for its high price are clear, it still sparks considerable controversy. To understand why the Hermès Sac Bijou Birkin bag has provoked such strong reactions, it must be placed within the broader context of the current discussion around the meaning of luxury. Over the past decade, brands like Chanel, Louis Vuitton, and Gucci have dramatically increased prices. In many cases, those increases have far exceeded any meaningful improvements in materials, craftsmanship, or innovation. As a result, consumers have begun to ask an unsettling question. Does luxury still offer real value, or is it simply a higher price? That skepticism has reshaped how people react to extreme items like the Sac Bijou Birkin bag. From a public perspective, it often appears to be excessive luxury. $2 million for something unusable feels unrealistic. To many viewers, it represents a mismatch with modern expectations of luxury. Extremely high price with almost no practicality. But from the perspective of industry experts, the interpretation is very different. Unlike brands that chase constant visibility and volume, Hermes moves in the opposite direction. It restricts production and avoids mass exposure. It also refuses to push its most unique creations into a commercial cycle. While other brands rely heavily on logos, seasonal drops, and frequent product updates, Hermes plays a much longer game. The Sac Bijou Birkin bag was never designed to generate revenue. It was designed to reinforce the brand's position at the very top. To critics, that approach appears elitist. To experts, it appears disciplined. Fashion historians and luxury analysts often describe this bag as a wearable work of art, an object created to demonstrate capability, not usefulness. This is where the conflict becomes unavoidable. The public judges the Sac Bijou Birkin bag based on utility, while experts judge it based on intent. And that gap, between usefulness and meaning, is exactly where the controversy comes from. The history of the Hermès Sac Bijou Birkin is also a major reason why it is one of the most expensive bags in the world. To understand why the Hermès Sac Bijou Birkin exists, I have to go back to 2012. This was not a consumer-focused launch campaign, nor was it designed to create demand. Hermès quietly introduced the Sac Bijou Birkin as part of its Haute Bijouterie collection, a category dedicated to the finest high-end jewelry, where commercial logic gives way to artistic ambition. The bag was designed by Pierre Hardy, Hermès' creative director of jewelry. His role was not to recreate the Birkin, but to convey its meaning, taking one of the most recognizable icons in fashion history and reinterpreting it through the language of high-end jewelry. At that time, Hermès was already one of the most respected leather goods manufacturers in the world. They did not need a show of extravagance. They did not need to chase fame. Instead, this project served a different purpose. Hermès wanted to assert that the Birkin was not just a bag, it was a work of art capable of creating its own value. Not something to wear daily, but something to be preserved, studied, and admired. The goal was not mass sales, nor were there any plans for expansion. The Sac Bijou Birkin was created to demonstrate capability, not profit. That is how Hermès proved that their most famous icon, the Birkin, could be elevated beyond its usual function and become a high-end piece of jewelry worthy of a museum. The Hermès Sac Bijou Birkin bag does not exist in everyday life. You will not see it on the street, you will not see it in high-end boutiques, and you will not see it on social media pages overflowing with fashion posts. It only appears at high society discreet events, private dinners, exclusive parties, rooms where attendance is carefully chosen, not purchased with money. When it does appear in public, it is usually worn quietly, almost normally, by those so wealthy that it needs no explanation. One of the most obvious examples is Nita Ambani, wife of billionaire Mukesh Ambani, Asia's richest man. She causes stir when she appeared at a fashion event in October 2025 wearing this bag on her wrist like a piece of jewelry. The other two are believed to be in the private collections of ultra-wealthy tycoons or held in Hermès' own heritage archives. Without ostentation, the item speaks for itself if you recognize it. And that recognition is key. This item is designed for those who already own everything else, those who no longer rely on logos to project success, those who have moved beyond the consumption stage and entered the selection stage. At this level, luxury is not about collecting products. It is about collecting status. The Sac Bijou Birkin bag functions less as an accessory and more as proof of quiet wealth. No other item combines the cultural influence of the Birkin, the technical complexity of high-end jewelry, and its absolute, unrepeatable scarcity. You can buy rare watches, you can have custom jewelry made, you can own iconic handbags, but you cannot replicate this unique blend. That is why the Sac Bijou Birkin does not compete with anything. Is the Hermès Sac Bijou Birkin a good investment? The answer is no. It is not a traditional financial investment due to its extremely low liquidity and lack of a public resale market. And if it does change hands, it happens quietly through private transactions, not auctions or listings. But for ultra-wealthy collectors, that is not a problem. At this level, it functions like rare diamonds or high-end works of art. Its value is not measured by short-term profit. It is measured by legacy, longevity, and cultural status. It is not about profit, it is about status. After understanding why a bag can cost as much as a Manhattan penthouse, a few lessons become clear. High price does not always reflect functionality. At the pinnacle of luxury, meaning is more important than utility. And scarcity is far more powerful than marketing. So here is my advice. Before admiring or criticizing something like this, stop and ask yourself, am I judging it as a product or as a symbol? Do I want utility? Now I want to hear your opinion. Do you consider the Sac Bijou Birkin bag to be art, power, or excessive luxury? Leave a comment below and suggest the next luxury item I should analyze. Why is it so expensive? If you find this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment on what topic you would like me to cover in the next video. See you next time.